We bring you live to the Panther Pit at Knoxville High School. The volleyball season starts tonight for Knoxville, and they've got themselves a home quad. I'm Dewayne Cook on Go SEC TV. We're so glad to have you with us here as we get our busy fall schedule underway. Over on court number 1 here at the Knoxville home quad, it looks like Carlisle is just a point away from a sweep against the 4th team in attendance here in Knoxville, that being the Ottumwa Bulldogs out of Class 5A joining us tonight. The match after this one will be Ottumwa and Knoxville, and then we'll wrap it up with the home team Panthers taking on the Wildcats of Carlisle. And a matter of fact, Carlisle just did wrap it up against Ottumwa. Straight set victory for the Wildcats as they take the second 21-13, which happened to be the same exact set score that we had in ours. Oskaloosa took the first, if you weren't with us, 21-14. Knoxville came right back, 21-13 in the second. And really the biggest difference from our vantage point here high above the Panther Pit at Knoxville High School was the defense for the Panthers. The passing was much better. They had several big digs off of some big swings still from Oskaloosa. I wonder if it was almost just kind of that first set, a little bit of a shock to see what Oskaloosa was bringing to the table, with Malia Walker and Gracie Durande, both with big first sets for Oskaloosa, but overall pretty quiet there in set number 2. We'll see what our third has in store. As you would typically see in a best-of-5 match, this third set will be just like a fifth. We go to 15, and, of course, you got to win by 2 in that situation. So we shall see how this one plays out. It's the exact same of what happened last year between these two back at the Carlisle quad. Matter of fact, with that really good Oskaloosa squad from last year's team that went 31-5, as we noted earlier here in the broadcast, that loss to Knoxville in the first set of that Carlisle quad last year was the only set they lost in their first 9 matches. They were 19 of 20 with their first 20 sets that they played on the season. They won the flip, so Oskaloosa gets to serve first with Gracie Durande back behind the service line. Out there for Knoxville, same 6 we've become accustomed to now at this point. The Duncans, also Baycorn. We've got Sullivan out there, McCarty, and number 12, Deaver. Baycorn with a big swing. That crosser's on the line. Doesn't get any better than that. Hannah Duncan to Brittany Baycorn. Knoxville fans, get ready to hear a lot of that this season. Brazil checks in for Deaver, as it will be Sullivan to serve. And Melanie Sullivan in particular in that second set was outstanding defensively. Her blocks up front were setting it up very well, at least getting some touches to take a little bit of steam off that volleyball. But she had a lot of great digs on the back row, but not her best moment there with the service error. That was another area. Knoxville had 5 service errors in the first set, just 2 in the second already, with 1 here in the third. The pass from McCarty back to Emma Duncan, who sends a free ball over to Oskaloosa. Now Walker, big swing, but Brazil is there. What a block. Her second of the match, and it doesn't get any better than that when you got a player of the caliber that Walker is coming right in your grill. 2-1 Panthers. Duncan, ace serve through the fingertips of Durande. Emma Duncan with her first ace of the season after she had 39 of them last year. She was the most efficient server, too, for the Panthers at just shy of 93% in the serve efficiency mark. And the Panthers with a 2-point lead, 3-1 in the third. Dug by Walker. Blommers going back to Walker from the 10-foot line. Dug by Duncan. Middle for Brazil, and she gets another point off the block attempt from Van Arkel and out of play. There's that momentum you talk about. Knoxville captured it midway through that second set, and they have carried it over, at least in the early going of this third. Dug by Durande. Blommers for Walker. Big swing. That will get through and off of Sullivan. A much-needed side out for the Indians. In comes Van Veldhuizen. Rotating out Hannah Nelson. And a 4-2 match in favor of the Panthers. Dug by Duncan. Duncan out to Baycorn, you bet. Right down the line and right off of Van Veldhuizen. I've seen that twice now from Brittany Baycorn, where she makes it a point to, when there is a player that rotates in defensively, she is going right at them. Baycorn with a 3-point lead. Dug by Walker. Blommers to Durande, into the net. I've got 6 kill errors in the book for Oskaloosa. And what we talk about in the first with Knoxville's 5 service errors, they kill you. It doesn't matter what the error is. Any free points, especially now when you're talking about a third set that goes to 15. And an ace serve will add to it. Baycorn with her first ace serve of the night, and a timeout by Ashley Goitia. 7-2 Knoxville. Just about halfway to a third set win. 7-2 Panthers here in the third set. If you're just joining us, Oskaloosa took the first 21-14. The Panthers came back with a 21-13 performance in set number 2. Now here we are. First to 15 wins it. I'm Dewayne Cook on Go SEC TV. Our first solo broadcast here on the SEC Network. All things South Central Conference. And this one has lived up to the billing. Baycorn with a short serve. It's dug by Van Veldhuizen. Outside, Walker on the set across the net from Blommers, handled by Baycorn. Now Horn over the tape, dug by Roach. Blommers going back out to Walker. Big swing through the net, through the block, I beg your pardon, and Sullivan's there to back it up again. Duncan a free push, dug by Roach. Blommers, Van Arkel mistimed her jump a bit. That gave Duncan an opportunity to block it back. Now Blommers to Walker, back row Sullivan. Baycorn tried to set it up, it looked like. It seemed like he was between trying to dump it off or set it up outside. And when she reacted last moment to send it outside, it fell out of bounds, giving Oski a much-needed side out, trailing by now 4 at 7-3. Walker serve, dug by Duncan, overpass. Blommers could not take advantage of it, putting it back in the nylon. Side out right back to the Panthers at 8-3 in Brazil to serve. For those of you watching with us live on Facebook, we sure appreciate your viewership. We'd love to hear from you, too, in the comment section as Brazil puts her serve into the net, the 9th service error by Knoxville. Quang back in for Oski, as well as Lily Bonnet, with both Roach and Van Arkel taking a seat. Cheer on your Panthers from the comment section. We're happy to hear from you, and again, glad to have you with us. A service error right there as well from Oskaloosa gives it right back. Back-to-back service errors. And Knoxville with the 5-point lead at 9-4. Seems to be a slight confusion on the rotation here for the Panthers. But getting ready to check in, Alexis Coons to serve for Horn. Also Brazil comes out, as does Duncan with McCarty back in on the front line. Coons' right-hander is off of Van Veldhuizen. It looked like she wanted to turn away from that volleyball, thinking it was long, but instead Alexis Coons with her first ace serve of the season. And Knoxville just 5 points away from a 2-1 season opening win over Oskaloosa, and they'll have some time to think about that as Coach Goitia uses her second and final timeout of the frame. 10-4, Knoxville. Panthers already back out on the court, waiting for Oskaloosa to join them as well. 10-4, they lead it by 6. As we go to 15 here in the third and deciding frame. Coons with another serve. This time Van Veldhuizen able to handle it. Blommers on the slide to Quang off of Sullivan. And a nice response from Oskaloosa out of the timeout from Coach Goitia. Blommers to serve. Van Veldhuizen takes a seat. Also Knoxville with some substitutions as well. Duncan back in, as well as Deaver. Blommers sets her sights on Emma Duncan, whose pass is going to pull her sister Hannah way out of play. She tried to make a play on it by the bench, but just a piece of it is all she could muster. Blommers with her second ace serve of the night. This one handled by Deaver. Baycorn sets it up. Sullivan tips it over the block. Roach there to back it up. Blommers going outside looking for Durande. Over the block. Baycorn dives down to save it. Duncan for Sullivan. Pushes a free ball over to Roach. Now back row attack from Walker. Big block by McCarty. Oskaloosa does get it back on a free return by Blommers. Resetting Knoxville. Duncan has it dug by Walker, but nobody home up front. Blommers could not get to it in time. I know the point goes to Hannah Duncan in the book, but what a block by Rylan McCarty. During that rally, 11-6, Knoxville 4 points away from a season-opening win. The serve from Duncan is long. 10 service errors. While they may very well end up with the win here, barring a big comeback from Oskaloosa, I will be curious to hear if Coach Kaitis, her thoughts on these service errors. Again, double-digit by my book anyway. They may be able to overcome it, but nonetheless, certainly an area she'll want to see cleaned up. Baycorn off of Roach, and all she can do is chase after it. Blommers. Brittany Baycorn up to 11 kills in my book. Knoxville leading by 5. In comes Ella Brazil. Out goes Deaver. Sullivan off the top tape. Good concentration by Roach. Blommers back row. Roach, all she can do is free return to Sullivan. Duncan going to Baycorn, and she mishit it. Off her wrist into the net. That doesn't happen too often, number 8. But the 4th kill error by the Panthers. Quang is out. Back to serve is Roach in her stead, and Van Arkel on the front line. Roach off of Baycorn. Duncan got there. Can they free return? Sullivan, yes. Walker to Blommers. Back to Walker around the block. It's into the net, but handled by McCarty. Duncan with a free return. Durande to Blommers. Bumps it up outside to Roach, and she gets it dug by Sullivan. Duncan to Baycorn. Left-hand tip. Overhead dig by Walker. Blommers on the third into the donut. McCarty mistimed her jump. That would have been a can of corn above the tape for big number 14. But instead, point to Blommers and the Indians. 12-9. Knoxville maintaining the lead, but it's down to 3. Roach low serve dug by Baycorn. Duncan going out to Brazil. It's down in the donut herself. Little roll shot works for Ella. Side out Knoxville, 2 away. McCarty rotates out. Duncan serving for her. And Peyton Horn returning. Duncan off of Walker. Outside Walker, it's long, and it will be match point for Knoxville. Trying to open the season 1-0. They've got 5 match points to work with. Duncan serve, overhead dig by Durande. Bad pass, Roach sets it up for Durande on the back row. Overhead dig by Sullivan. Quick pinball over to Duncan, and a lift will be called on the Knoxville setter. Seemed like she just got her arm out there and caught a piece of it. I don't know how that's necessarily a lift. But nonetheless, match point number 1 survived by Oskaloosa. Van Veldhuizen back in to serve. Her right-hander dug by Duncan. To the middle for Horn, diving down Van Veldhuizen. Walker to Durande, free return. Knoxville in system. Duncan going to Baycorn, you bet. Brittany Baycorn clinches it, hitting it off the block and giving Knoxville the 2-1 win. 14-21, 21-13, 15-10 against the Oskaloosa Indians.